All right. So apparently, there's been talks about Warner Brothers Discovery and Paramount Global merging. Now, I know a lot of people, myself included, are probably going to be furious about this. And why do I say that? Well, I will say this: the Warner Media and Discovery Networks merger, after Warner Media split away from AT&T. Uh, I got to be honest, it was a bad merger to begin with. And let me also say this right here. Um, Now, AT&T wanted to, distance themselves away from Warner Brothers anyway at the time, and while while they wanted that, I think it was kind of a bad thing that AT&T got rid of Warner Media anyway. But I don't think that's the case here. I think the thought of WBD and Paramount Global merging, I think is pretty much going to be another terrible merger. And here's the thing, you know, the head honcho of WBD, I mean, David Zaslav, I believe. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be honest with you. He's literally, he literally has the same exact mindset as Bob Iger from the House of Mouse. And why do I say that? Is because literally everything what Zaslav gets his hands on, gets destroyed to oblivion. Gets wrecked. Gets tarnished. You know, he's no different. And like I said before, he's no different than Bob Iger from the Mouse House. And I must also say this right here. Yes, um, there's a there's a lot of things as far as on the Paramount side. Um, now I now Paramount Global does have a parent company. I forgot the actual name of the parent company. Uh, but please correct me in the comment section on that behalf. But I will say this: Paramount Global, they're not doing. I don't think they're doing so hot. Um, and I'm talking financially because this year alone, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One didn't do so well in the box office financially, and who knows when Dead Rec- Mi Dead Reckoning Part Two is going to come out, if it ever gets released. And while we at it, I don't know if you guys remember you know, the television networks UPN and the WB from the 90s until like mid to late 2005, prior to the merger, prior to them merging to become the CW. Um, yeah, that was a joint the WB I mean, when that came about to become the CW was literally a merger between. I mean, it's literally a joint venture of the WB of Warner Brothers Discovery and um, Paramount Global, even though they even though at the time they were known as they were known from different names, like. But I think we can see why why Warner Brothers Discovery is trying to, create this monopoly. You know, the issue at hand is they want to get so big. I mean, it's like this. They want to have they want to become a mega conglomerate, as if they're not a mega conglomerate right now. But Mr. Zaslav, who is the head honcho, he's literally running the whole thing down to the ground. Now, I will say this, some of Paramount's main franchises, I would say, like like Mission Impossible and Star Trek. I will discuss the latter of the two real quick. Um, Before I even, I will discuss the latter of the two soon. But now let's talk about Mission Impossible. I mean, like I said before, Mission Impossible, which that intellectual property is owned by Paramount. Obviously, it's been owned by Paramount since the '60s, uh, along with their TV series that they had back in the '80s. I mean, it was a short-lived TV series that aired on in the late '80s, sometime in the late '80s to like early '90s, and then in '96 that was when the first Mission Impossible film by Tom Cruise came about, and the franchise was made popular again. Now, we don't know how. We, like I was saying earlier in this video, we do not know the fate of Mission Impossible 7 Part 2. We do not know the fate of that because the first one, I mean, Mission Impossible 7 Part 1 didn't do well financially in the box office. But that's another story. And then you have Star Trek, which is a well-known IP from Paramount too. Even though it was derived from it was created by Gene Roddenberry. And to be honest, look at what's going on with the Star Trek franchise. Gene Roddenberry would be appalled at how it's turned out. This is this was like Mr. Roddenberry's creation, and unfortunately, whoever's directing the films and the TV series of the current Star Trek now, it's gotten to the point where it's appalling. Now, I am a Trekkie, and I have to be honest. I am a big, my favorite Star Trek I mean, installments have to be literally The Next Generation, um, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager. I mean, in regard to TV series. Now, as far as movies go, as far as movies go, within that same time period, yeah, you had Star Trek Generations and Star Trek First Contact and Star Trek Nemesis. Uh, and to be honest, out of those three aforementioned movies that I've listed, I would say First Contact happens to be my favorite of the bunch. Uh, Generations was definitely wonderful, even though they could have just called it Star Trek Star Trek The Next Generation, the film, the movie, or something like that. But you know, and I'm assuming it probably was like a continuation of how Star Trek TNG left off. But I digress. Um, but I will say this: a lot of people would make make the opinion, and I pretty much would agree with most of their opinions that Star Trek as a as an IP peaked, with the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager. But now you got, but since the turn of the millennium, probably like not until like the late aughts, I would say. You know, Star Trek as an IP started to suffer a bit. And it was done by, and we can thank J.J. Abrams, which by the way, J.J. Abrams would later on and get involved in Star Wars as well. And I'm be honest, I'm not a fan of J.J. Abrams, and the only J.J. Abrams work that I really liked the most was the TV series Alias, but that's another story. But I will say this: I mean, Warner Brothers Discovery and Paramount merging, I think it's going to be a bad idea. It's pretty much going to be another catastrophic merger. Much worse than Warner Media and Discovery Networks merged. And I could probably compare this particular merger to say um, the Daimler Automotive Group and Chrysler merger back in the 90s, which resulted in Chrysler's as a car company having their reputation get hit. And that's my worry with WBD and Paramount merging. This may end up having to be a disastrous merger again. I mean, and this is literally what happens when corporate greed is being favored over trying to let everybody do their own thing and things like that. But what do you think about this merger, this possible merger that's going to take effect? I am Chuck Johnson, a.k.a. Kid Thunder. I am signing off. You guys have a wonderful day.